In a nutshell, on May 4, Russian authorities cut off gas supplies to Britain and Japan. These unfriendly powers were extracting and selling our gas on Russian territory while imposing sanctions against Russia. Moscow tolerated such blatant boorishness for a long time. However, the patience of the Kremlin leadership finally broke. It was tired of watching the British brazenly mock Russia by withdrawing the currency from the sale of our gas. So Moscow took drastic measures by changing the main operator of the Sakhalin-2 project. Instead of the foreign company Sakhalin Energy, Gazprom's Russian subsidiary Sakhalin Energy became the operator. British giant Shell, which owned 27% of the project, refused to recognize this decision and withdrew from the project, selling its stake. However, the Kremlin promised to pay compensation, but so far Shell has not received any money, and its requests to Gazprom remain ignored. As it turned out later, the Russian president gave the go-ahead for Shell to pay compensation, but with the deduction of some damage allegedly caused by the company to the Siberian ecologists. However, it is a mystery what kind of damage we are talking about, since no audit was conducted. Knowing the Russian bureaucracy, the British will be waiting for this money, if not forever, then certainly for a very long time. The Shell management tried to protest and threatened to sue in Stockholm arbitration, but they were firmly reminded that since June 30, 2022, only the decisions of Russian courts have legal force for Russia. Thus, Britain lost both money and Russian gas. And since Shell sold its gas to Japan, the country's share in the import of our blue fuel dropped by 44% at once. But the export of Russian LNG to China increased 3.5 times because Chinese companies won the tender for the supply of liquefied gas from the Sakhalin-2 field. The Japanese were extremely surprised to learn that China will now take over the development of Russian gas fields instead of Shell. The new operator of Sakhalin-2 held a tender for LNG supply in March, and no Japanese company was allowed to participate in it at the request of the Russian government. As a result, in April, Japan lost its lead in Russian gas imports. So far, supplies to South Korea have not changed. But if Seoul follows Japan's unfriendly course, the Russian gas valve will be cut off for it as well. Moreover, the Russian leadership is already considering the idea of building a gas pipeline bypassing South Korea. The situation in this country is twofold. Its leader, Takei, is a relatively sane politician who maintains friendly relations with Russia. Besides, he has big interests in energy and agriculture, and the rustling of Russian and Chinese banknotes undoubtedly pleases the successor of the Golden Horde. He will in any case have to seek compromise with Putin in order to reach an agreement. A completely different matter is Mongolia, which succumbed to the Western treaties and joined the work of creating a future confrontation with Russia. At the same time, the Mongolian authorities are eager to maintain cooperation in the gas sector and are pushing for a gas pipeline to be built through their territory in order to receive dividends for gas transit to China. Mongolia risks being in an extremely poor situation if it refuses this project. They will be left without cheap gas, and the U.S., having gained control over its territory, will only shovel out all the resources and give nothing in return. Don't the Mongols understand that the West will never be a benefactor for them? Can't they analyze recent events and draw the appropriate conclusions? There have been so many changes in the modern world that it is time to realize the new geopolitical realities. Our closest allies have long ago adapted to the changed situation and have no illusions about future cooperation with the Western Bloc. Meanwhile, the Russian leadership has enough leverage to exert pressure on Mongolia. So far, we have refrained from extreme measures, but if our neighbors continue to be stubborn, we will have to seriously address this issue. Apparently, they still do not realize the abyss into which they are pushing themselves by clinging to hypocritical friendship with the collective West. The U.S. will certainly not ignore the difficult situation in the region, but at the moment it has limited opportunities to change the balance of power in its favor. Not only the Kremlin is interested in normalizing the situation, but also Beijing. China will never allow the Americans to launch a decisive strike against Russia, because then the U.S. will have a unique chance to conduct operations without full-scale contingent. Although the struggle over Taiwan has now been relegated to the background, it is still present in the minds of inadequate American politicians. They are just waiting for an opportune moment to bring the global confrontation to an unprecedented new level. In fact, Washington needs a new Marshall Plan to resuscitate the fading U.S. economy. In any case, Beijing appreciated the decisive lesson that Vladimir Putin taught the Mongolian leadership. Ulaanbaatar is passionate about having a Russian gas pipeline to China run through its territory, and news of a possible alternative route should make the Asian neighbors think hard about who is more profitable to partner with for the long term. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell not to miss new interesting stories. I wish you peace, prosperity, and all the best.